Hello, Peekers. Welcome back to Plot Peek. I'm Miranda.
And I'm Mackenzie, and this is your one-stop shop for storytelling.
Tea spilling.
And to keep up with all the latest book talk drama that you have been missing out on. Bitches!
Any life updates?
Well, in the last episode, I did disclose, or maybe it's the one before, I thought I had a brain tumor. I'm over that. No worries. But I am going to go see an ENT tomorrow because I just finished a steroid pack for a clogged eustachian tube. And it worked a bit. It did help a little bit, but I still have a blowing constantly in one ear. So,
Eesh. Terrifying.
so it's either a circulatory issue or a sinus issue. Can't decide, but I'm going to see a specialist in the morning. So
excellent. I think that's what you should do. You have to go right to the source, figure out what's going on, even if you have to pay $1,000 for
I
it.
did not go to the emergency room, contrary to the advice that some of my friends gave me. However, do you have any life updates?
I just came back from a beach trip with Colby's family. That was so fun. And I posted something on my page. I was like, what song was I singing for Colby's family? And you had the audacity to say my neck and my back. Do you think I'm some kind of sick freak or something?
Floozy. You're a floozy.
Floozy.
No, I'm just kidding. Not the floozy. No, I actually don't think you would do that. However, the way you were looking, that's the first song that came to mind. And I was like, maybe. Who could know, really?
That's valid. Well, I'll tell you what it was. It was Pink Pony Club. And honestly, that's probably not any better than my neck and my back because I'm pretty sure she's singing about being a stripper.
Yeah, but Pink Pony Club sounds really innocuous. It sounds really cute. I think that was a better choice.
I can't resist. And they gave me a round of applause. So I think I'll do it again.
Was it the grandparents?
Yeah. They said, oh, that's so good. I said, you guys are hyping me up too much. I'll do another one.
You said encore? Say less. Say less.
Yes, I was meant to be on the stage. That song was meant for me. I resonate with that song. Love that song. It's my anthem.
Yeah, if you guys are ever bored, you should go look at our little bios under our page for Plot Peek. Mine is very chill. It's like, trying to become a podcaster, do something I love books, all the things. Hers is like, I was born to be famous.
I'm trying. I'm shooting my shots.
And fuck nursing. Those are her two things. Like, fuck nursing. I was born to be famous.
That's literally me these days.
Let them know who you are.
Yeah, I don't hold back. I'm an open book. What can I say?
I love it.
Well, before we begin with this recap, we want to remind you guys that we're going to be story covering basically all of Sarah J. Maas's Heir of Fire. So today we're going to be going through chapters 50 to the end. So buckle in because it is going to be a little bit longer than most episodes. And if you're reading along and you haven't gotten to these parts yet, this is your warning. We will be storytelling everything, essentially, that happens up to and through these chapters. But first, let's do a quick recap of everything that's happened so far. Word of the king's recent slave killing spree has reached everyone. Dorian is in love with Sorsha and is trying to get her out of the castle because he knows that his dad is a psycho and will kill anyone just because. Kale and Aiden are still trying to figure out how the king was able to banish magic, but they have a suspicion it's related to the Black Towers and each of the possible spell points. Captain Norok, the general for the king, has taken this opportunity to lay siege on Wendelin as he heard the rumors of the king heading there to attack as well. And from the sounds of it, Norok also has been creating spooky new creatures associated with these black collars and black blood that seem to repel old magic. Manon and Abraxas are airbound with the 13 and getting ready for the war battles to compete for the wing leader position. Rowan and Celaena continue their bonding, and we learn that they may not be mates, but they could be something equally as rare. A Karanam. It's a bond that would allow them to share their magic with the other, and it's a very deep bond. That's all I got right now. Did I miss anything?
No, you covered it. You covered it. Are you officially out of your Rowan's an asshole phase, or are you still very much in it?
I still think that Rowan is very much an asshole. I feel like my perspective of him has shifted a lot though. But I still think he's an asshole. I feel like he is just how Celaena is, where he's very blunt and straightforward and doesn't care if he's going to hurt your feelings, essentially. He's going to say what he wants to say.
Yeah, I don't know if I really ever exit my Rowan's an asshole phase either.
Yeah.
So
I think
I'm with you there.
Yeah. It's just his vibe. That's who he is. And if she's okay with it, that's cool. Hopefully he doesn't hit her again. Yeah. All right. So where we left off, Celaena was unleashing hellfire on this magical barrier between the fort and Maeve's immortal lands. She was there for hours, throwing all of her anger at the news of the king's recent slave camp massacres. She's had enough of being too late to help, and she's ready to start fighting for what's about to come, which is going to be sooner than expected. After a long day of preparing and planning, after she finally gets some sleep in her room with Rowan, they're awoken with a terrible realization that someone in their midst sold them out. They can see Narok's black cloud coming to the fort, and they sound their alarms and get everyone ready for battle. Not only is it Narok's army, he also has 3 of the soul-sucking creatures, which is surprising because up until now, we thought that the skinwalkers had killed that one that was chasing them through the forest, so there should only be about 2 from what Rowan had scouted earlier. Celaena remembers the soul sucker who was chasing them in the forest hid from her wall of fire, and she tells Rowan that she wants to go outside of this magical barrier to hold them off as long as she can. Because if the blackness that these creatures have breached their barrier, it's game over, and it will suck the life out of everyone it touches. Rowan is hesitant, but eventually accepts that this is the best plan. He's like, fine, but do not engage with them when you get out there. Just protect the barrier, and that's it. And guess what she does? She immediately engages with them. As soon as she gets out of this magical barrier, she's throwing fire at them, all 3 fighting her at once. And immediately after she steps out of this barrier, she's hit with the headache and a nosebleed she got whenever she was in the clock tower. No choice but to ignore it. She fights them. She lights a shield of flame and sets the sword that Rowan slid her on fire to counter their attacks. And she's holding her ground pretty well with it. And it surprises these creatures that she has a weapon that can stand against them. They shout their surprise, which teaches us that the sword that Rowan found for her was the sword of Maeve's old lover. And we also learn that these soul-sucking creatures are the Valg demon princes, the ones who created the Kroken witches and the Ironclaw witches. And that the king is working to release these demons by putting them into the bodies of demi-fae, which makes Celaena scared that either the king is even more powerful than she thought, or he's an idiot who's doomed them all and welcoming these demons into the world.
There is so much to unpack in this chapter. We just dropped so much information for you guys. 1, the skinwalker. Those skinwalkers are horrifying. I don't know that we did a good enough job describing how menacing they are, but 3 of those I think it was 3 of the skinwalkers against one of these Valgs. For the Valg to be able to walk away unscathed and to be here in this battle, he has got to be immensely powerful to have been able to defeat those skinwalkers. That's 1. 2, we find out that the Valgs are ancestors of the Kroken witches, basically meaning that they procreated with humans to create these witches. So that's where the witches get their powers. So that also basically shows that these are not new creatures, because the Krokens are hundreds of thousands of years old. So whatever is bringing them here now, they haven't been reported or seen or cited, anything like that. So they've come back because of something that the king is doing. Yeah. And they're implanted in these human bodies. Lastly, the king is somehow commanding them, which is horrifying. And I think we, in the book and now we're kind of putting together that the collars / black rings are the ones, the kind of conduits for them to be in these bodies. And I think in the book as well, they're kind of starting to put together that they're using the demi-fae to be conduits for these higher power type demon things that they're calling Valg. This is really not turning out well for anyone right now.
It's terrible news for everybody a part of the situation. Not only did they get sold out and now they're under attack, surprisingly. Like, they knew it was coming, but they thought they had more time to, like, get everybody prepared. No, it's happening right now. And yeah, we thought we had one less really scary creature to fight. No, we've got full power. All three of them are there, ready to go. And now they're just kind of scrambling. So, terrifying situation to be in. Stakes are high. Who's going to die? Who's going to win? We don't know. So Celaena is fighting and protecting the barrier. At the same time, she's allowing her magic to have its own control to protect the barrier wall. But after some time, she begins to feel the beginning of her burnout. And the Valg princes are attacking and ripping through her shield. 5 massive predators start running down this hill nearby. And it's clear that it's Rowan's warrior friends. He had called them for help whenever we learned that Wendelin was not going to be able to come to their aid because they're currently under attack by the king of Adarlan. Celaena knows they're here to help him and the people inside the barrier, so she uses what's left of her powers to clear a path for them to run through the darkness and in to help the fort. One of Rowan's friends stops to look at how unwell she is, but she's like, please, just go help him. So he does. And let me just paint a picture of how unwell she is. We remember how she was when she was getting the fuck beat out of her by Cain, right? Like, so essentially, just imagine that. She was not great there. And then add her burning from the inside out with her blood pouring from her nose, and she's not doing great right now. She's getting beat up right now.
I think her burnouts happen like maybe differently a little bit each time. Like that burnout there in the past that we had talked about, she really hadn't reached the end of her magic. She was just so immersed in it. She was so overtaken by it that all this magic started just pouring out of her. It overtook her. Here, she's like reaching near the end of her well. So she's like reaching deep. She's reaching in and she's giving everything she has to defeating these people. You know, she's reaching truly the close to the end of her magic. And she's also tired as hell. She's beat the fuck up. And she's also like exhausted. Like it's like a trifecta of what you would consider like, think about you at your absolute worst, sickest, most drained state. And she is fighting for her life. Like she's very close to dying. It's very dramatic in this scene.
And we know how sensitive she is too about being too late to protect these people as well. So it's like, we know that her biggest driving factor is wanting to protect people. She wants people to live and not die because of her. So she is giving her 100% all, giving her magic to protect this entire fortress, also fighting these 3 Valg princes. It's just chaos. And then on top of that, the darkness that she's surrounded by is eating her up. So she's like getting these headaches, getting a nosebleed. She's wearing out because of her magic. She's wearing out because she's fighting. Like there's a lot of things going on. It's chaos. It's scary. It's scary. That's all I can say.
So scary.
So scary. So inside, Rowan's friends meet him, and together they try to hold down the fort because it seems that someone also leaked the secret entrance to the fort, which allowed Narok soldiers to sneak in. Rowan asked how Aelin was whenever they came in, and one of his friends was like, she is not looking so great. So Rowan drops everything to go run out and help her. He sees her wall of fire with holes ripped through it as Narok continues to throw his dark magic at her barrier. He sees her trying to hold her ground, but he can also tell that she's burning out. And then she eventually looks up to the Valg princes, drops her sword, and her flames burn out. Before he can run out there, he's tackled by his friends who are reminding him that the darkness is going to kill him if he goes out there. And then Celaena is sucked back into her nightmares by the Valg princes, reliving the way everyone she's ever loved has died. And the Valg princes are fully enjoying every bit of agony she's reliving. But Celaena is taking it every ounce as if she deserves this pain. And at one point, Sam is in this nightmare and he is whipping her with his metal-tipped rope and she's begging for more. She's begging for more beating, more punishment for all the times that she was too coward to save the people that she loved and their tragic ends, and she's ready to die. And so she sinks deeper and deeper into her despair until she hits the end of that frozen river in her soul. And then we get this flashback to the days before her family and the kingdom's death. The king of Adarlan had arrived to her kingdom with his inner court and a young Dorian. It was during this dinner that everything had changed. She reached for a glass of water when spikes of hot pain shot through her head and progressively got worse. Her mom noticed and felt her skin burning, singeing her dress by her touch. Aelin felt a worm of darkness pushing through her head, making her magic go more wild than it already was, and she burst into an entire body of blue fire. Her magic was trying to get rid of this parasite infesting her mind, and she remembers after her handmaids had thrown water on her to snuff out her flames, she looked back at the table and saw the King of Adarlan smiling right back at her.
It's so crazy how long she repressed this memory, but for her to resurface it now when she knows the king even in a different way and has worked under him, he knew what he was doing. He had some kind of magical ability that he was able to do that. He was the one facilitating that to happen and potentially even causing, drama or discord amongst the table, saying, oh, your daughter's dangerous. She could be potentially attacking us, blah, blah, blah. He facilitated that to happen with this little girl. He knew this whole time.
Yeah. And I think we definitely did not mention her powers from her flashbacks, but I think Mackenzie did mention it once or twice that she had a really strong power at a very young age that she was not able to control, and she was trying to be tutored. They had talked about sending her away for training to get better control over it. So she was quote unquote high risk of losing control and damaging a lot of people because of this power. And the king was already against magic because his bloodline had been without magic for so long. And I think he's low-key just jealous. So he's just trying to stir up some mess. I don't know why he targeted her specifically. I wonder if we'll figure that out later. But I do find it interesting that out of all the people he chose to inflict this parasite on, it was her.
He's saying that he's against magic, but this quote unquote parasite that she's feeling roaming around in her body and her brain had to be some kind of magic. And there was nobody else there at the table other than him and Dorian, which Dorian was a young child at this point, and then all of the Ash River Galathinius family, including Aelin. And so he's saying he's against magic, but I think he has magic of his own. He has magic, and I think he was using this as a conduit to say, there's strife amongst the kingdom. I'm worried about her. I'm worried of what she'll become. We have to annihilate this family type thing. We have to, using it as almost a way to say, this is another reason that I'm taking over and banishing magic because of people like this that are such a threat. I think it's all a farce to gain control, to gain power over the kingdoms when he has magic of his own.
That's tea.
It doesn't specifically say he has magic, but who, how, what would be doing that? You know what I mean?
I thought that it was all kind of correlated with the word magic stuff. So he's really well versed in word magic, which isn't really magic, but his line has magic in his system. He just can't do it himself. So he can use word magic. But you have
to be able to produce magic to use word marks.
I thought you just needed magic in your blood.
You have to be a magic wielder to use word marks.
Interesting. So what was Nehemiah's magic?
It was banished, so we don't know. Magic was banished, and so nobody, unless you had magic before the spell was cast, whatever it was, you don't know that you have magic, what kind of magic you have until you're able to use magic again. It never really says specifically that Nehemiah had this power or that, but she had to have been able to use magic.
Yeah, and it was just repressed because of the area that they were in, I guess. Okay. Well, after that night, the king and queen of Terrasen and Aelin's handmaiden, Lady Marion, and her daughter left the city to seek solitude on their countryside estate. Her parents thought it was just another attempt of Maeve trying to spy on her magical abilities, so that's why they wanted to remove her from that area. And Aelin was struggling to sleep for fear of what could happen if she lost control of her powers again. So her mother gives her one of their family's most prized heirlooms as a protection gift. That very night was the night of the attack, and that was the night that Aelin began to hate herself. She was too afraid to acknowledge this dark parasite in her, the one that had begun to stir as the unnaturally dark storm rolled in that night of her parents' death. The storm that was actually a warning that she ignored. And when they learned that the heir to the throne was still alive, they sent another assassin after her. Lady Marion told her what she needed to do to escape and stay alive, to keep Terrasen alive. And as she ran out of the back of the estate, she saw Lady Marion take her stand and then tragically get killed as if she were nothing. Aelin ran for her life through the woods as the assassin chased after her to this river. She jumped for the bridge that crossed over this roaring icy river, but the assassin cut it before she could cross, and then she went down with the water. That was the night that Aelin had died in the freezing river, losing the last piece of her family, losing her kingdom and all the people in it, losing every hope that they had given her for their sacrifice, and Aelin felt like she deserved to die. She had to die so Celaena could live.
That is literally so sad. And it's like Arobynn found her at her most vulnerable moment. It's interesting. Like, I want to know if he knew immediately who she was, what she was, all the things, or if he had just stumbled on this random treasure that he decided,
We're going to keep
I'm going to wield her into this weapon. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that pretty interesting too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that that's also like looking back into Assassin's Blade, like how he treated her, honed her into this, this very specific weapon that he trained. Like, I think it goes to show that he knew who she was at some point, and I think he knew that at some point he would be able to weaponize that or use her in a certain way to gain notoriety, to gain something. He had literally the future Queen of Terrasen in his hands to mold into whatever he wanted.
Yeah, I definitely think that he probably found her before he realized who she was. And then, because everybody knows that the lost heir of Terrasen was supposedly lost in the river. So I think that he can put two together after he heard those rumors. Like, he's like, this is probably that girl, but I'm going to just kind of like mold her into my own like thing and see if she can do something for me in the long
he
run.
knows who she is.
Oh,
like,
really?
She tells him who he is. And that's why he even told Sam, like, the night before he died or whatever. He was like,
yeah.
Has she told you who she is, her secret? Has she told you what has she told you about herself?
Oh my
He knows who she is. I think he was the one that encouraged her to change her name.
Oh, wow. That's tea.
Yeah.
That's tea.
He knew exactly what he was doing, and he knows the power that he holds over her.
Sick.
Disgusting. It'd be one thing if he just hid her and kept her safe, but all the ways he's manipulated and tried to keep her around, even when he sent her to the mines of Endovier, when he basically said, I don't like to share my possessions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to share what's mine type thing. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah. That's crazy too. Like, the galls on him to do that to the heir of Terrasen. Like, I just don't know how he would think that she would be on his side after everything that he's done to her. That to me is mind boggling.
I think he really overestimates the power that he thinks he has over her.
Just like most men, yes. And as Celaena is lying on this frozen river of her inner despair, reliving this horrible moment that triggered this hatred for herself, small feet walk up beside her. It's young Aelin, Fireheart. She stretches her hand out and tells her to get up. Then another voice comes. It's Sam. Then it's Nehemiah, Lady Marion, her parents, everyone she ever felt that she let down, all showing up to tell her to keep going. This is a huge pivotal moment for Celaena. She's realizing that there's still time to be the woman that they knew she could be. So she's accepting her mistakes, her fears, and she's beginning to move forward. And outside of this nightmare, the darkness had broken through the magical barrier, but the Valg princes are in too much of a frenzy, eating up Celaena's fear to notice. And Rowan is still trying to get to her while his friends are holding him back, and he's about to knock them all out unconscious to get to her when the ground begins to shake. They look at the darkness that was filling the forest beginning to arc, and a light erupts through, and a huge burst of fire against the darkness releases. These creatures fed on her fear. So when she let all of her fears go, they had nothing to hold her back, which is a huge and another character arc for her. She's just let go of all of her fears, accepted her regrets, and now there's nothing holding her back from being her true self and having true strength in her powers.
Our little baby, Celaena. I think at this point, she also really decides, I am allllll. Whatever happens, whatever will be, whatever happens to me, I am allllll, Ash River Galathinius. I've let go of all of this that has happened in me, and here I fucking am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love the character arc of it because it's literally you can't change your past. All you can do is accept what's happened and then move from it and try to do better the next day. The next step that you take, what are you going to do to be better? There's nothing you can do what happened, but there's still hope for the future. And I love this moment in the book, and I wish I had better words to describe this explosion that she just created too, because it was like this invading darkness. Imagine like the atomic bomb cloud almost. Like that's how I imagine her fire coming out of this darkness. It's like just an atomic bomb almost. It just shook the world. Everybody saw it. It shakes the ground, and it's just massive. And I love that. It's so powerful.
So beautiful. She needed this too. All the self-hatred that she's had this entire book for herself, she needed this redemption, this let go moment.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So when her flames stop, Rowan sees Aelin standing between the two creatures with a blue word mark again on her forehead, and her hair and her eyes were burning like fire. The Valg princes run up to her only to be stopped by her hands covering their mouths as she blew fire into their stolen bodies, melting them from the inside out. But as Rowan ran to her, he could see the damage they had already done to her. They had truly fed on her. She was weak and about to reach a true burnout. So we know what that means. He's got to do the thingy. He's running to her. He slices his hand and he reaches for her hand. She knows what he's offering, so she slices her hand and they join grips. Rowan gives her his power, and it's a very intimate yet fast action-packed moment. She creates this huge wave of light that completely obliterates the dark, the Valg princes, and Narok. And when the fires settled, the only thing that remained were their obsidian word collars.
I don't even have words for it. I'm literally covered in goosebumps. All she needed to do was let go of all this fear and self-doubt and self-hatred. And once her power was renewed, she could have destroyed them at the drop of a hat if her power was at full strength. But Rowan gave her that boost of power that she needed to absolutely incinerate them now that they weren't feeding on her fear and her doubt and her self-hatred. And
I love just seeing, like, again, how much power she has, especially now that we know that they are the Karen couple or whatever. And I know Rowan is a super strong fae, so it's like the power that they can share with each other is insane. And I am so happy that she has gone through this redemption arc of whatever, and she's knowing that she is in control of herself. She knows her power, she knows her strength, and she knows what she needs to do to save everybody. And she has a badass amount of fire that she can use to kill everyone.
Well, and I don't know if you know this, but once their hands are released, once their blood isn't connected anymore, that power, that connection stops too.
Oh, yeah.
So it's
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's only when their hands are joined, their blood is connected, that they have access to each other's power.
Interesting. That seems very inconvenient.
It's more so for like life or death, do or die type situations. You know what I mean? However, she's got a lot of magic on her own. Like she has a lot of power on her own. But to know that they have each other as that resource. And that also takes a lot of trust too, because she was so close to her burnout after literally holding a wall of flames and fighting them for, I don't know how long the fight lasted, but it was a long fight. That's a lot of trust for him to give her access to his power too. Like to say, I'm trusting you with everything. If you burn out, we burn out. And even in that situation, right before he joined hands with her, he said, to whatever end. And she said, to whatever end. And they joined hands. And he was like basically saying, I'm trusting you with my life. Aww. Do with it what you will.
I just got goosebumps too
I
now
know.
because I love that. They literally say that a lot. They're like, to whatever end. Oh, I love that.
That was like their initiating, like, little to whatever
Bonding
end.
moment. Yeah.
Mhm.
So after a few days of resting, we learned that the Demi-Fae didn't have a terrible amount of losses since Narok's army was wanting to capture them alive. But the prisoners from Narok's army were dead by the morning because all of them had taken poison. Rowan's friends were heading back to Maeve's kingdom, and they warned Rowan to get his story straight for when he meets up with her because they all have blood oaths to her, and they're not able to hide anything from her. Which would basically be that 1, Aelin is back, and 2, that they bonded, which is about to be tea.
Yeah, big T, since she facilitated that. It's really her own fault.
It's true. So Rowan takes Aelin to this hidden waterfall pool. They sit and talk about how nothing will be the same now that the world will hear that Aelin Galathynius is fighting back against the King of Adarlan. She acknowledges it and accepts her fate, and she's more worried about having to leave him to return to Rifthold. She would give him something like how she gave Kale the Eye of Elena, but the only other thing that would be as valuable would be that heirloom that she lost in the river 10 years ago. The heirloom that she just put together was what kept her safe that night and what had kept her kingdom so strong and safe. Because that heirloom was one of the 3 word keys, which meant that she had to have still been wearing it when she was washed up on the riverbank shore. There's no way she would have survived that fast current and rocks and freezing cold water. And that's when it clicked that Erebin had found her and probably saw the heirloom and thought that it was just a valuable piece of jewel, taking it not knowing what power he truly held. And Rowan can tell that she's having this epiphany, but she's like, I can't tell you, because she knows that while Rowan is bound to Maeve, he would be forced to tell her everything that she knows. And she can't tell him about this 3rd word key, so she tells him another truth. The truth about her story she just came to accept. And once that was finished, she reached her palm out over the waterfall and made a marble-sized drop rise to her hand. Which means she's able to access her grandmother's gifts of water now, which is something she's never been able to do before.
Yeah, I think that was such like a special moment for her too, to know that she has that little kernel of power. And I think she was even saying in that scene, like, this is all I've been able to do. I know that I do not have the power, like the massive power of water, but for her to be able to access that tiny little bit of that line was just so special to her.
Yeah, I feel like that means that she's going to eventually get stronger with that. I feel like this is just the beginning of her accessing this water power.
Potentially.
So she's a firebender and a waterbender. She's the Avatar.
She only needs 2 more to go.
So Rowan and Aelin, they head back to Queen Maeve's realm to get some more answers on the word keys, like where Aelin can find them to stop the king. Maeve is being Maeve, aka a bitch, and tells Aelin that the word keys can't be destroyed, only put back in the word gates, something that she doesn't know how to do. So basically, she has no useful information for Aelin. She tells her more about the Valg race and how the 3 princes are their rulers who occupy no physical body, their only characteristics being darkness and despair. We learn that the Valg princes are omnipotent, and to become physical, they have to possess a magical body. Meaning Aelin didn't actually kill them during that battle, she just made them run away. And then Maeve drops tea that Aelin's great-grandpa, Brannon Galathynius, was born a bastard. But since his power of fire was so strong, he was able to hold the Valgs back long enough for the Fae to banish them. He was granted royalty and became the king of Terrasen. But because he was bastard-born, he had been cursed with this blue mark on his forehead, and all his future heirs to come would also have that as well, to remind him of his beginning, which is why her forehead glue when she was fighting Cain in the duel. Her blood could tell that Cain was possessed by a Valg demon and was able to be contained by that black wordstone ring.
So Valg can be killed by fire. Basically, if they're in the host, they can be killed by fire.
But can they not be resummoned?
No, they're dead.
They're dead.
By fire, they're dead. I wanted to double check my sources, but it looks like fire is the only way that they can actually be killed. So when Celaena, if they're inhabiting their host, they're like parasites. If they're inhabiting a host and they are incinerated by fire, they're dead. They're not going anywhere. if they are killed when they're in their host by fire, they're dead. They're gone.
Dead.
Just to
He's
clarify.
dead.
He's dead. I
Now
did
you
watch
get
that. Yeah, now I get it. He's dead.
So Maeve believes that the king is controlling the Valg princess with the black word collars around their neck. And she also warns Aelin that if the king gets all 3 of the word keys, that he's not going to need to worry about finding magical hosts. He's only going to need the bodies to bring a whole army over. He'd be able to hold the word gates open as long as he needed with absolute control. Somehow, Maeve can tell that Aelin might know where that 3rd word key is, but Aelin's obviously not going to be telling her. Just as suspected, Maeve tries to use her blood oath with Rowan. Rowan tells her that Aelin knows the king has one, but doesn't know where it's at, and that she just figured out what Brandon did with the 3rd word key, but that she wouldn't tell him the details. So Maeve orders her other blood oath minions, which are Rowan's friends, who just helped fight with him, let's remember, to set him up for some whippings until Aelin tells her where the 3rd word key is. And this goes on for a while, and when Aelin is about to cave, Rowan tells her not to. And that was it. Aelin was tired of letting people get away with evil, so she let go. Her eyes shifted to flames, and she bore a crown of flames as she drew up all the power she had and set her entire kingdom on fire. The entire kingdom. And this entire kingdom is made out of essentially stone, so the fire was mostly for show. There was no one getting hurt or homes being burned down, just fire. And from the inside of this room with Maeve and Rowan, they could hear the people of Maeve's kingdom begin to shout and panic from the flames. Maeve is trying to play tough and says that whatever she's doing is pointless because the kingdom is made out of stone. So Aelin dares her. She says, "Try me, Aunt. I can show you who's not stone. Your people. You wanted this, didn't you? To see how powerful I truly am? Well, here it is. And I know the truth. You wanted to steal the word keys for yourself when Brandon and your lover found out they fought you. You killed your lover. Brandon took the keys from you while you grieved, and he burned down the sun goddess's temple so you couldn't find him with your seeing magic. And you were too afraid to go after him with his magic, my magic, being so strong with all 3 word keys. And then here's more tea. Turns out Brandon was why Maeve left Gwendolyn and moved here to build an entire city made out of stone with elite magical high fae to help grow her kingdom. And we learn that Brandon left Maeve's lover's sword in the cave where the lake monster got his eye cut out, the sword that Rowan had found that Aelin now holds.
Athril or Athril is her lover's name.
Yeah, so that's the sword that Rowan found. Rowan found Athril's sword, which was Maeve's supposed lover.
This is tea, though this is like one of the most epic lines, I think, in the book. Literally, Maeve is sitting there and she's like, "My kingdom is made of stone. You can't hurt them." And she said, "Your people aren't." Oh, that was tea. That is literally mic drop. And it describes in the book, too, Aelin covers her entire kingdom with fire, basically. People included. She's got fire surrounding everyone. But the way she describes it is that it's flamed fire, but it's heatless. It's not burning anyone. And she even describes it a little bit as like she even lets Maeve feel just a little more singe of her flames than other people. She just lets just a smidge of that heat. That just shows you the control that she's developed.
Love that. I absolutely love it. I'm so happy seeing Aelin being so strong and powerful and knowing that she is a bad bitch and she has the comebacks to go with it. And I'm just here for it. I'm here for it.
Snaps to Aelin.
So Aelin puts out the fires and Maeve tells her to give her the sword of her late lover and just to leave. But Aelin is like, no ma'am, I'm not done here. She walks up to Maeve, grabs her hand and shows her a vision of the future that she got when killing General Narok. The vision of her ruling the kingdom of Orinth with all 3 word keys, her power so strong that no enemies would dare to attack her. And after the vision, she looks Maeve in the face and says, "I suggest you think very carefully before you threaten me or my own or hurting Rowan again." She pulls out the ruby ring from her late lover's sword, the ring that would have been given to Maeve if she had not killed her lover. The ring that Maeve had been searching for thousands of years. And so Aelin tells her if she wants it so bad, then she will undo this blood oath that she has with Rowan. And if she doesn't, she'll melt the ring. Blood oaths are supposed to be irreversible, but somehow Maeve does it. She releases Prince Rowan Whitethorn from his eternal blood oath, and he rushes to Aelin, kisses her forehead, and drops to his knees. He grabs her wrist, and he offers complete submission, offers to take a new blood oath with her. But Aelin is like, I literally just freed you from one. I can't put you right back into another one. But in their mind talking, Rowan is telling her, I claim you, Aelin, to whatever end. So she slices her wrist, and Rowan starts drinking her blood, and she can feel this binding beginning to form between them. No words could do justice describing what's passing through them, but just know that it is a very intimate soul-binding moment. And Maeve is like, okay, cool. Now get the fuck out of here. So she's like, this is all going on in front of her. She's like, okay.
She basically is like, leave before you disrespect me further. I don't want to see your faces again.
No, I was like, this is kind of awkward, but it's cool. Whatever. It's a moment. They go back to the fort, and Aelin asks Rowan to give her a tattoo over the scars on her back. She sings the song of her people as he wrote the story of her love and her loss, of her parents, her uncle, Lady Marion, her court, and her other people of Terrasen, Nehemiah and Sam. She did not want to keep their stories locked away anymore, and she was no longer ashamed.
I love this. I don't even know that it's romance that's blooming at this point. It's like this deep, soul-altering friendship, kinship to her. Like, I love what's blooming. Obviously, I think it's insinuating that it's become some kind of a romance, though they've done nothing physical, other than sleep in the bed beside each other. But even so, they don't even touch. Like, it's been completely platonic at this point. I also love how, though he started as such like this asshole, domineering, angering, like at the end of this, not only is he claiming her as his person and basically claiming to follow her, he's also, the blood oath, I feel like really shows how much he respects her and how much he trusts her at the end of this. And I love that. I love that he started out as this like alpha, domineering, angry asshole, and then not only has decided to love her and like choose her, but also show loyalty and respect to her because he knows she's a bad fucking bitch.
Yeah, no, I'm obsessed with this moment as well. And I completely agree that it's such a different thing that's developing from most romance stories, because you would expect they would be in love, having sex all the time, kissing, touching, blah, blah, blah. But they aren't. They're just friends. They're genuinely on the same page. They want to help the greater good, and they know that they're going to have to fight for it. And I think that it's so good having Rowan on her side as she's coming to light of her new path and she's accepting her new fate. And I think Rowan at her side is going to be the perfect person for her to support her during this new journey that she's going on.
I also love, I know a lot of our like typical book talk, romance enemies to lovers type things show either the people at equals or even like the woman more subservient, in awe. Like they often will just show them like, I'm with this high God, I'm with this high fae, blah, blah, blah. But he's the one worshiping at her feet. He knows what he is trying to claim. He's the one swearing the blood oath to her. Like, that's what I love. It's just woman empowerment. Like, he knows what he's got, and he immediately is like, I pledge loyalty to you. I am yours. Oh, I love it. It's so different than a lot of enemies to lovers plot lines that just gives me all the chills.
Because it's just enemies to friends right now. It's not even lovers yet. Just enemies to really good friends.
Could be heading that way. Like, I mean,
I'm definitely thinking it's going to head that way.
It's appearing like it's heading that way, for all intents and purposes. However, it's just like a very different storyline than a lot of
Yes.
enemies to friends, enemies to whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he's like, damn, she's a bad bitch. God, like, he's like, I will do anything for you, which I love.
Yeah.
Worship
Love
at
it.
her
Live,
feet.
laugh, love. All right, so it's time for Aelin to return to Rifthold, but she has to leave Rowan behind because he is a large fae who would blow her cover as Celaena. She tells him that she's going back just to get the third word key from Erebin, and when she completes that, she's going to return to the north. She'll find the word keys, return them to the gate, free magic, destroy the king, and save her people because she is Aelin Ashriver Galathinius, and she would not be afraid. Yes, queen! Oh, I love it. Full circle.
At this point, we probably are, well, we'll definitely start referring to her as Aelin, because I think these last part of the book, she is really saying, I am Aelin. Like, during this whole part of the book, we've been like Aelin / Celaena, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? But at this part of the book, she's fully embracing herself as Aelin. So in future episodes, we will be saying Aelin Ashriver Galathinius, bitch. So
Slay. Yes, I'm so
Slay
happy.
queen.
That is the definition of a character arc. She just went from Celaena to Aelin. She just reverted back to who she's meant to be. She found herself, and she is that bitch.
She is that bitch.
Well, this is a plot twist for you guys. We are going to make this into a 2-part series because turns out the show is actually quite long. We have a lot more tea to spill, so you're going to have to come back for part 2 of Heir of Fire's, I was about to say Crown of Midnight, but it's just Heir of Fire.
Heir of Fire's Crown of Midnight, Throne of Glass.
Assassin's Blade.
Yes.
We're going to retell the whole thing in the second part. No, but seriously, you guys are going to have to come back for part 2, and it's going to be a good one, so it's going to be worth the wait. Just use this anticipation to create fake scenarios up in your mind, as I would like to do personally.
Exactly. Yeah. And
knows what could happen.
It could potentially drop sooner than a Monday drop. So you might not have to wait long for part 2 of the finale. Bitches.
Slay.
Maybe. I could have just been gaslighting you all. Who knows?
Who even knows? But yeah, stay tuned. So yeah, make sure to come back and follow us on TikTok and Instagram at plot. Oh wait, didn't we change the handle?
We did. So you can follow us on Instagram at Plot Peak Podcast and TikTok at plot.peak. And then don't forget, we have our emails wide open for your bookish battles, crazy tales. Send them in, please. And where can they find that email, Miranda?
It will be at plotpeakgirlies@gmail.com. And actually, we have an update. Don't we have like 2 story submissions now?
We have another story submission. We would like to give a special, warm-hearted, loving shout out to our besties over at Fiction Fixation Podcast, our girls Court and Rose. They have submitted a Bookish Battles story, and it is so funny. I cannot wait to read it on the podcast. But they have just been like the most loving, supportive, like podcast friends that we've made. So definitely, if you like the media coverage / book coverage / kind of like
movie
drama
coverage,
sesh, yeah, like drama sesh, like let's talk like media coverage type thing.
Yeah,
go follow their podcast. We have like kind of similar vibes. They're just hilarious, so informative, so fun to talk about, and they just love to give some tea.
Yeah, they know. They are literally us, but wiser and probably more mature as well.
We do say that they are our fairy godmothers because they have helped us so much. I think I have one of their numbers saved in my phone as blank fairy godmother. So
it fits. So we're very appreciative of them. But thank you.
So appreciative. All right, guys.
See you later. Bye.
Wait. See you later for part 2 of the Heir of Fire finale. Catch you next week, bitches.
Bye.
Bye.